If this is going to go outside, this needs paint. Welcome back to Tools and Track. Loom. Right, I think the best way to describe this is I'm going to start at the furthest end and work back to the ECU. So the first mod that we're going to do is at the furthest point, which is the alternator. Now, you'll see here that I have a alternator signal plug, which is this guy here. Now, that needs two wires, focus, a grey and a red and a grey. Now, this was snipped, and you'll see that I now want to run it in the engine loom rather than across the back where we had it here, which was horrible. So, I've got to here, and now we need to join it to the other two wires that are fed through the transit block. Luckily, I also have a grey and red wire from the surplus we've cut. So, first technique for joining wires. Let's look at soldering. In order to solder, you'll need, unsurprisingly, a soldering iron. Here's one I brought earlier. You'll also need solder, such as this, and power, which I don't have. Now my preference for this is to give these a wee twist together, so that at least they're bound. Also, make sure that the end of the cores doesn't poke up, because we're going to be putting heat shrink over that. Check that this guy's hot by leading it. I think they call it leading it. Basically, melting solder onto the tip. There we go. I see smoke. That's going to work. You need to heat the copper, not the soldering iron. What you're looking for is for the solder to sink in to the strands. That's not worked. Great. There we go. That is joined. One down, 300 wires to go. Next step though, wee bit of heat shrink over there. You don't want to set the heat shrink on fire, of course. Just give it enough heat that it shrinks and burns your finger. Lovely. So this big king lead is now actually going to run up underneath here. Obviously I'll make sure the heat from the exhaust doesn't cause it problems. And up to battery positive. Now you'll notice here there are two wires sitting off. Those were original MX5 supply wires, and wouldn't you just know it, there's my feed to the key. So what we're going to do with this is wire joining method 2. This is an end-to-end crimp. You'll see there is a wee notch in the middle, and it's the same on the other side. What you do with that, now mind I'm joining two wires to here, which is a bit dodgy, but never mind. Feed one in like that, and the same on the other side, and then with the power of brute force, join the two together. Et voila! Crimp. So believe it or not, this whole mess is actually the front loom done. We are, from here forward, exactly where it needs to be. Well, not physically where it needs to be, but everything's actually plumbed in. We've got all our main lives running from here through and up to the key. We've actually got the key running to the starter and our feed wire for everything else sitting here ready to go to a fuse box. Now, you'll also notice that some of these have been held together with green tape. Well, that's actually because I'm in Glasgow, and if you put green tape somewhere, you must offset it with blue tape. So in the interest of bias, that keeps everyone happy for some reason. That takes me delightfully on to the point that we've all been waiting for. It's time to plumb in the fuse box, because once the fuse box is plumbed in, we can actually crank the car and start it. No pressure there then. Crimp idea 3 is doing special crimps.
Special crimps.
So these guys are what you need to do the fuse box with. So as you can tell, the fuse box will have wires that goes into the back and they click into place. So normal Spady the boys probably could work, but I'm not going to use them. I'm going to use what it came with. So that's this guy.
Yes. He's just clicking.
Clicking. So to demonstrate, should we just click them in?
Are you confident that they're not going to go back out?
Well, no, but...
Where are they clicking in? Are they actually attached? No. They're not attached.
No, I just rested them there.
They're not attached.
But they're not, we're doing the fuses, not the relays.
This is going to go here.
It's going to go there. It's going to go there.
It's not really going to matter, is it? Because you're going to come out either way.
Yeah.
So how many feeds ins are you going to need though? This is the question.
Well, so I can tell you. I can tell you right now. This many feeds in. So this blue wire comes from the key, all right? So the key, blue, needs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but I think 7's optimistic.
We only have 3 at the moment.
Yeah, well the 3, so I need 1 for the injectors, 1 for the coils. I think I'll actually put them together. The lights will need 1. Fuel pump relay will definitely need 1 for that. And like I've got a horn and some other nonsense, but to get this to crank, at the minimum I'll need 3. Just figure out which way it goes.
That way.
That way. All right.
Right, so this one.
1. Go with 2.
Okay.
It's probably a good idea if we feed as many in as we can get, and that way we can just add fuses as we need them. The fuse box has begun. I'm going to splice that into more.
Okay.
That's all right with you.
It's your car.
Okay, so with our 1 fuse in, that is technically power to the ECU. Granted, we do have to have a continuous live direct from here to here, but I've got a funny feeling that's probably not going to make a difference. Lovely, beautiful assistant is going to turn the key, and we should hear noises from idle control valves, which isn't, that is plugged in, yeah. So, ECU's doing stuff. Yeah. Look how excited he is at that. Yay. While we're on the subject of complete and absolute detours, oil. It's in here somewhere. Now, before I go gunning 5 litres of oil in here, it probably would be wise to make sure that I am correct and that there is actually no oil in it. That's probably going to be more detrimental than I would have immediately thought. There is oil in it. Interesting. The reason I say that is because we drained this, didn't we? Because we cleaned it and we painted it. So finding oil in here is worrying. Right, it, gearbox. I say that because I'm going to have to circle back and see if I have actually filmed an instance where I put oil back in this after painting it. This is the task I've been relishing the least because, well, access is nil. So the good part is whilst access is nil, it's a good exercise for doing this in future. So the first thing I can learn is we're not doing this from above. Right, let's just keep going down the list. Diff. We have fluids everywhere. So diff's done, gearbox is done. I'm pleased to announce now that when I turn the wheel, there's no noise. So yeah, when metal on metal is dry, it doesn't enjoy life. Also, I checked back in my videos, I don't have a specific instance where I've highlighted that oil went in that engine, but it's at the full level, it's clean, it's not water, and I think I do remember having checked back in my eBay receipts, buying 5 litres of oil for this, so it's got oil in it, I'm fairly happy with that. Obviously this happens when you build a car, you're like, did I do that? Always double check and make sure you've done it. But we're now almost fluid ready. I've got coolant still to arrive and, well, obviously fuel, but that's not going in until the last minute because, well, I've not really finished how it's going to stay in and have a cap because there's no clamshell. So for the test fire, we'll engineer some backyard solution to that again. Right, enough about fluids because this is also a loom episode. On my fuse box, you'll see I've got 2 principal wires coming in here. But I don't. So what's actually going on here is this black wire, that's a feed direct from the battery. Remember I said I was going to have a constant live separate from the ignition. These ones are actually coming from the ignition and this just happens to power the ECU. That's how we made the engine make lovely noises. So I have another 3 options here for switched live, which I'm going to come to later on. But let's focus on this for a moment. This is going to be my constant live. Now I don't really want to have half my fuse box with just constant live. I don't need a lot of these for what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do instead is make sure that whatever's coming out of here is tailed accordingly to power all of the dumb stuff that needs a constant live. And by dumb stuff, imagine a clock in the car. That is about the height of what I need a constant live for. So luckily I've mapped all this out on the board. My constant lives are going to be an ECU feed, which I have dug through the spurious amounts of wires and separated those. We'll come back to those in a minute. Also the immobiliser will need a constant live as well, but I have a third, so brake lights I also want to have as a constant live. And to be honest, that's about it. There are other things I can do a constant live for, and if we're going to need one, I can splice another constant live in, or alternatively bridge this out if I'm happy enough that this wire's amperage is going to be good for it. So with that in mind, for the moment, I'm going to just do a spur wire that's going to power the ECU constant, power the immobiliser constant, and then pin it there. Realistically, I can also splice this into 2 and run the brakes and whatever else we need to do. But that's going to be the next thing. The reason I'm kind of focusing on this at the moment is heart-to-heart moment. I've got the nerves, the proper nerves that this ECU box isn't going to be right. Now I know we pinned this out in a previous episode and my wiring is still as per the drawing. However, I was never happy that the wires going to this immobiliser matched the diagram. So my black doesn't exist. I'm fairly sure it's supposed to be blue. That's the earth. Also, yeah, it's just, I can see us getting rid of this ECU and going aftermarket, do you know that? Just to get rid of this immobiliser drama, but I'm kind of inclined to push with it for the sake of content, if nothing else, you know. So it won't work, we know it won't work, and then people can laugh at me in video, because apparently that's a good thing for folk to watch. Next stage, constant lives, montage. I'm bored. Let's look at the exhaust.
Looking at the car.
Yeah.
The wires.
I've been looking at the car too. Now, don't judge the hole. The hole's not the bloody problem. The hole's where it needs to be.
Yeah.
This thing, oh my God. Like, that's after chopping it and repositioning it. Like, the problem is, if you look down here, well, you can't really see it because I've stuck this stupid bloody thing on. Like,
Yeah.
the proximity to this, no matter what we add to it,
It's
I mean,
too
that's the problem is, yes, there's clearance, but when the engine comes off load, it's going to load up that way. When it comes off load,
It's going to work
it's
out.
just going to go dong every time, dong. So, nah. What I will do is use this hole as a reference, and that guy.
Let's make another one.
Just
Just
again.
make
Just
another
start
one.
again,
It's
isn't it?
less hassle.
Like, there was a good logic of let's do that, but then when we forgot to put in that pipe, it was a whole thing, and then obviously we need to sheet it, which is another whole thing. So,
You probably better tell this. That's not actually the.
oh, so that was a temporary thing as well.
That's
Obviously.
got the full cat to pass emissions.
Yeah, we'll do something better and spicier. We'll just wrap that. But even at that, we can nibble this to straighten it out to that. But there's no fix to this. There is none. Let's.
That needs a new one.
Now, don't ask me why I thought I would go with a two-stage press steel with spot welds. It's probably going to rot out, but don't know. Seemed like the lightest solution that would be strong enough to hold the exhaust. Also, remember we did make a bracket before, but since sheeting the side of the car, none of that would have worked, so new one. Anyway, that's done. Like, bell, subscribe, like I say, every episode, but do the thing, actually do the thing, because genuinely, there's only about 30 of you that actually hit the like thing. It costs you nothing, just get it done. However, if you're into the idea of doing a bit more on the spendy front, patreon.com/toolsandtrack and help awesome builds like this. And until next weekend, when we inevitably have to do more loom, I will bid you with this. Drive safe.